Welcome to Wine Soundtrack USA. Listen to the passion with which producers narrate their winery and their world. In 30 answers, discover their stories, personalities, and passions.
Hello, friends and listeners of Wine Soundtrack. This is Allison Levine, and today I am with Matt Iaconis from Brick and Mortar in Healdsburg in Sonoma, California. Matt, welcome to Wine Soundtrack, and tell us a little bit about Brick and Mortar.
Thank you for having me. So Brick and Mortar was started in 2011 by my wife and I. Back then, we made 84 cases of Pinot Noir from a single vineyard site in the eastern mountain range of Napa. From there, we grew. We added some Chardonnay in a couple years. After that, we started sparkling wine. We primarily make Pinot Noir and Chardonnay, sparkling wine and Syrah. We also have a really fun line of cans. Which has really got our name out there, across many different genres and price points.
Very cool. And you're sourcing fruit. Do you have any vineyards, or where are you sourcing from?
So we source everything. So we don't own any vineyards. We source mainly from Napa, Mendocino, and Sonoma County. The different counties. The cans do come from Clarksburg area, so Lodi. But for all brick and mortar bottles, they come from Napa, Sonoma, Mendocino counties.
Great. And how many cases do you produce?
For bottles, it's about 3,000 cases a year. Cans, it's roughly 8,000 cases a year. So, 3,000 or 11,000 total.
Okay. And last technical question, what markets are your wines available in, or how is it direct to consumer, or do you have distribution, and what states?
So we're distributed in about 15 states across the country. We do a solid amount of direct business via our website, which is brickandmortarwines.com. But we're available in Norway, we're available in Canada, we're available in Japan. If you have listeners there, Go get the wines. We're kind of available everywhere.
That's fantastic for a small brand.
Yes, it's great.
So tell me, what is your first memory relevant to wine?
Interesting. So the first one I ever drank, my mentor will be very happy about this, was Silver Oak Cabernet. This was in 2008, so probably been in the 05 vintage. It was in Maui. I got a call from my mom. I was playing football at Davis and I had a week off. My mom's like, "What do you do next week?" I was like, "Well, school. I'm in college, right?" And she called me, we were talking, she's like, "Do you want to go to Hawaii?" I was like, "Is that a real question?" I said, "Of course I want to go to Hawaii." And then she had a trip that she was on for business, and I got to go to Hawaii. And the first wine that I remember drinking was Silver Oak.
Wow.
It's not a bad place to start, I guess.
No, not at all. So you started with the bar pretty high. In all the wines you've tasted, is there one of those aha moments of wine that either set you on the path to make wine, or make certain wines, or just like wine, or explore wine?
Well, I would say between Alexis and I, we taste a lot of fun wines. 82 Krug is up there. I think it's one of my favorite wines of all time. I mean, I don't think I'm alone there. 82 Dom, it was a one night. I have a friend that's a fantastic champagne collector that we got to taste a lot of really fun champagnes. We make sparkling a lot of it. So I would say those are kind of aha moments for sure.
Yeah. Well,
that'll do
it. Drinking Krug. Okay. So have you spent time traveling around the world and exploring wines?
Yeah, so I used to live in Australia and New Zealand a couple times. We've spent a good amount of time in Italy and France, Austria, Germany, different parts of the world just to learn and taste. And, it's the beauty of the job is you can go and you can experience all of these different places and have a lot of really fantastic, wine regions throughout the world.
So traveling around the world, who do you think drinks the best in terms of quality?
That's it. I'll give you two answers. I say QPR wise, quality price ratio. Italy is hard to beat. I think bang for your buck, they're hard to beat. I think it really comes down to what your taste is. Given that we make Pinot Noir and Chardonnay and we love champagne, it's hard to beat France. We just went to Germany and Austria for the first time together right before COVID. So that was fall of 19. It was fantastic. So it's I didn't really give you a precise answer there. It was on purpose.
That's okay.
Neutral.
So if we were to come into your home, into your cellar, what kind of wines would we find in your personal collection? I'm not asking how big it is, but.
So, I mean, a lot of European wines, I guess if I want to generalize it, we do drink a good amount of domestic. But if you look at our wine style, it's not your typical California wine. We drink a lot of wines from France. We drink a lot of wines from Austria and Germany. Wife's a big Gruner fan. So, you look at bright whites in general, that's, prototypical brick and mortar. If I had to talk about what we do. It's a lot of European wines. Yeah.
And have you opened anything recently that drank really well?
Well, my wife is due next week, so we haven't been drinking a whole lot of wine around the house.
She hasn't been drinking, but have you?
I feel guilty. I'll have a, I'll have a beer. We had that Jobard. It was 12 from Merceau. That was delicious. Antoine Jobard. We had that. What's that Spring Mountain one we had?
Collect a lot of champagne.
Yeah. We've opened a couple select bottles, which I get to enjoy a lot of. Again, aforementioned Baby on the Way. But yeah, the Jobard, that 12 from Merceau, that was delicious.
Ooh. So, do you think there's a such thing as a perfect variety?
Yes, I would. I mean, it's hard. I would grapple between Pinot Noir and Chardonnay as one of those two. I think it depends on if you're a Blanc de Blanc fan like my wife. Chardonnay's the one, right? It's funny. It's such a polarizing grape. I think in California, there's so many different styles that are produced, and that can be a problem. When a normal consumer just wants Chardonnay, there's so many, the spectrum of wines that you can get. It makes it a dichotomous grape, if you will. But I would say Chardonnay is probably the perfect grape. Yeah.
So what's your opinion on wine critics and scores?
I think they're very helpful. I think especially when you look at a small brand, it creates cred, if you will. It creates credence within the brand. And I don't think that they're the end-all be-all of what a good wine is, but I think it creates benchmarks within certain portfolios. And I think on the whole, it does create a lot of opportunity for people that, maybe if you're not familiar with one wine or another, but it has a 95-point score to it, it automatically drinks better. And I think in general, it creates an opportunity for reviewers and critics to really assist and shape new palates and new consumers. And I think I'm all for it. I think there's a lot of opportunity there.
Well, so being your own critic, really quickly, red, white, or rosé?
Sparkling. It's my number one wine I make. I just know it. It's.
My next question is still sparkling, but
I'll just cut to the chase here. I mean, if you want to talk about still wines, I think I've learned how to make Chardonnay. I think I've had most growth in Chardonnay as a producer. I think.
I'm asking you as a drinker, though.
Well, champagne. I will drink bubbles pretty much every day of my life.
And partial to champagne, or also domestic or another country?
Good bubbles. I'll just qualify it as any good bubbles. I don't care where it's from. I'll drink it. Franciacorta. We had a phenomenal one on our honeymoon. I don't have. I'm not picky. If it's good bubbles, I'll drink it.
So, you drink bubbles, so this is an easy question. When you think about pairing food and wine, a lot of people have rules of white wine and fish and red wine with meat. Do you follow any rules? Do you have any tips, or do you just drink sparkling wine with everything?
I mean, bubbles go with pretty much anything.
They do.
I think I'm a big proponent. I mean, given our background, we both worked at the restaurant in Medwood. She was, the head som. I was a captain there. I think we have a different take on what pairings can be. I don't prescribe to a specific rule. I mean, outside of if it's grown there, it probably goes there, right? With what the wine is, I think it's a great generalization that you can go with. I think you can get creative. Again, you want to look at different varietals and the different components in which they create, or what they can create. Pinot Noir in particular can be a very, very versatile wine, rosé, right? You can have something that's light and fresh, or you can have something like a Tabal rosé, which is, more hearty, has more guts behind it. So there's no real rule that we prescribe to. We'll make something and we'll open something, and if it doesn't work, we'll open something else, right? So that's kind of, or we'll drink the first one before we eat, or, that's how we go.
So you've touched on this already a little bit, but for somebody who's never had brick and mortar, what do you think they're missing out on?
I think it's a different take on California. I mean, I would be the first person to tell you that we don't make prototypical California wines. I think there are more people making wines like us now, which is phenomenal. I think when we started in 2011, we were a little bit of an outcast, making like 12.5%, 13% Pinot Noir from Napa Valley. I had the amount of times people ask, like, why are you making this from Napa? I was like, well, at least just try it. If you don't like it, that's fine. Right? And then they try the wine, they're like, oh, I get it, right? Because you can find cool spots, literally and figuratively, inside Napa Valley to grow Pinot Noir. And I've always
I didn't even know that.
Right? I've made the conversation to people, we've had the conversation, why Pinot in Napa? I was like, I can show you a bad Cabernet site in Napa. Just because it's a varietal that generally does well or generally doesn't do well in one area doesn't mean you can't have specific sites in a very large area and very, the different valleys, the different aspects. There's a lot of variance inside of Napa. And so I think in general, we don't make California wines, and typical California wines, and it's a different take. It's a bright take on California is the easiest way to put it.
So if space aliens were to land on your property, which of your wines would you want to present them with to welcome them?
Sparkling.
Yes,
bubbles.
but which one?
La Perla 2060. I would say 2016, maybe Brut Rosé. That's what you have. That's what you have in glass right now. Mm-hmm. It's a phenomenal. It's a certified organic vineyard from Yountville Blockhouse, which originally planted in 1836 by George C. Yount, who founded Yountville. It's called Blockhouse given the vineyard shape. It looks like an old Kentucky style blockhouse. For us, it's 100% Pinot Noir. We make it as a still wine, so it is a Blanc de Noir base, in which we add about 4% Pinot Noir just prior to tirage bottling. It's on lees for 36 months and then is disgorged and has 2 grams of dosage, so very low.
And you put the disgorgement date on the bottle, I see. I'm sorry to make people jealous, but I'm drinking this right now. It's
great. I think the more transparency you can have, it creates a story for the wine. Not only is it the vintage, not only is it the area, but the life of wine. And we have this wine that we will disgorge in 3 or 4 more years and have a different disgorgement date. All right, so not as a teaser, but it's one of those things that's something we're working towards. 2015 was our first vintage for sparkling. It's a great learning curve for us. So we've kept bottles back that will continue to disgorge over time, right? We'll taste our 2016 side by side with this wine later next month, because that's 1 year extra in bottle. So that's kind of how we're going to look at it. And we'll keep about, I think, 120 bottles back.
Kind of like how Krug does it.
If Olivier and I, wants to have lunch, we can chat. No, they're a great producer, right? There's no ifs, ands, or buts about them. We don't make champagne, we make California sparkling wine, but if there's an inspirational type of a wine, being inspired by Krug, I'm not the only one. I'll put it to you that way.
So you don't have your own vineyards and you're sourcing fruit from different vineyards. How much time do you spend at each vineyard walking through the vines?
Depends on the time of year. During harvest, a lot. I would say July and August in particular are really big travel months for me, but I just am in a car all day. So I would say it's a minimum an hour plus per vineyard, especially when we're taking samples. I do all the sampling myself. I go to every vineyard myself. For us, there's few more important decisions than picking. Especially at our ripeness levels, you miss the date by 3 or 4 days, it's a brick plus in California. So you're talking about 0.5% to 0.75% more alcohol, a lot less acid. And for our style of wine, if Sunday is the perfect pick date, which no one picks on Sunday. If I'm going to either pick on Saturday or Monday, I'm going to pick on Saturday. Mm-hmm. And that's just our mindset, because given our style of wine, I've learned over time what makes the most sense. We made sparkling wine in 15 and the base wine was fruity as all can be. And that was at 11.5%, 12%. I was like, oh, I'm working with a stacked deck here. I can do whatever I want because it's always gonna have fruit. And that was a pivotal moment for our brand to understand, like, I can pick it. We pick Chardonnay usually at 20.3, 20.4 bricks. And that's ripe sparkling wine for different people. And for us, the wine ends up 12.5% and beautifully textured and rich because in California, that it's inherent, right? So then our goal is how do I focus on the other aspects, the brightness, the texture, the tension throughout the wine? It's gonna have fruit. I don't like that box has been checked. I know it's gonna be there. So how can I focus on the other sides of the wine?
So I know that they're not your vineyards, but obviously you're familiar with your blocks. Do you encourage them and talk to your vines, or do you have a very personal relationship with them?
I do. So Cougar Rock, which is actually the wine being poured right now, for those in the room. It's owned by the Antinoris. So the Antinoris started making wine in 1385, so it's been a while. And they came to Napa in 66, and Pierre Antinori founded this winery, this estate in the 80s. And from there, I used to work for the Antinoris. So for me, I knew that they're called the short rows. It's block 48. There are about 12 rows that are shorter. They are rockier. It just makes more sense for our style of wine. So I've had the exact same rows for, this will be year 10 for that wine.
And so do you talk to them?
I mean, I talk to myself a lot and my dog. There have been times that I've voiced frustrations when things aren't, developing the way, like for instance, was it 2017, after the big heat spike, we had a vineyard out in Spring Mountain and the wines just shut down. It was Labor Day. We got up to like 115 in the vineyard and the vines were at like 22-1. And they were at 22-1 for like 3.5 weeks after that. And then I'm just thinking to myself, oh my goodness. Like we gotta kick this in high gear, guys, because we gotta get going. We picked and then the fire came like 2 days later. So it was very fortunate in that mindset. But yeah, I mean, there's maybe a couple words that have been said that I can't say on the podcast if things aren't going right, but. Yeah.
So you reprimand them more than you encourage them for vines, but they're doing whatever you're doing.
They're doing a good job.
They're doing a good job.
It's about, coaxing them into being the best they can be.
And just, do you have any sort of traditions or rituals that you and your wife do at the start of harvest?
Well, it's usually sparkling. So we tend to have a couple good bottles of wine right before harvest begins, mainly because knowing that I'll be away from the house 18 to 20 hours a day. We tend to go on a camping trip. That's a big thing for us. We go up to, actually it's you can see the camping site from Manchester Ridge. It's up in Mendocino, Manchester State Beach. It's a big group site, a quarter mile from the ocean. And you can have like 50 people there. And so we rent it and we kind of just invite a bunch of people. It's a big harvest. Yeah, because I know we all know it's coming. I'm going to be a little cranky.
She's going to be a harvest widow.
She always is. She's a champ.
So I know you said you played football in college and, wine. You were a sommelier as well, but when you were little, what did you want to be when you grew up?
Oh, as an astronaut. I grew up my entire life wanting to be an astronaut. So I originally went to school for aeronautical engineering. I went to school for 3 years. I went to Davis. I'm from Sacramento. I went to Davis because I played football there. It was close enough where my family could come watch. And I studied aeronautical engineering for 3 years and then found out how much I hated that. I was really good at math, and it was always a strong suit when I was in elementary school, into middle school for math. When I was in middle school, into high school, went to college. And so math was always my thing. So I've always been interested in space. I'm really good at math. Let's go that route. And that wasn't fun at all. And so it was my third year in college, my spring quarter. I had just torn my ACL. So I'm kind of down in the dumps, to be honest. And I go to my athletic advisor. I said, I need something fun because I don't want to be here anymore. I don't want to do this. And she said, well, it's not easy, but it's fun. I was like, what is it? Intro to winemaking. I was like, oh, it's like the ¡1 class at Davis. I was like, great. Sounds fun. It's probably a lot easier than what I'm doing right now. Vector analysis and spatial, the amount of math. I now do math on my phone
Yeah.
That's how my life is.
Yeah.
So a little different now. And I loved it. So I switched a major after that one class, and my parents thought it was crazy. But it was something for me. It made a lot of sense. There's a lot of chemistry involved. There's a lot of science. But at the same time, I was always been a very creative person. Like I designed the labels, we design all the packaging. I love that side of it as well. It's expressive. Mm-hmm. And for us, it just made sense. And when someone told me I could travel and do my job, that was awesome too. Because I'd lived in California my entire life up until that point. And so I was like, well, I can go live in Australia and New Zealand and make wine. Yes. The answer is yes. So it was great.
So I know you have a baby on the way and another kid or two at home, but what do you like to do in your free time, if you have any?
Golf. It's pretty simple. I mean, if it's just me personally, I will golf every day of my life. What we do as a family, we travel. I mean, pre-COVID, we travel a lot. So Alexis is from north of Boston, so we typically would go back there at least once or twice a year, or her family would come out here. We, for, again, pre-COVID, for research-wise, we would always take a trip or two to different parts of the world.
That's great.
Baby Moon, we went to Antigua, which couldn't be better. It was awesome.
But no wine there.
It was the worst. I mean, the worst and the best part about it was we just found this beautiful all-inclusive place, and it was one of those things like, of course you go to an all-inclusive place when your wife is pregnant. Like that, maybe not this. It was great. Like it was delicious food. It was perfect.
So as a former football player, do you have a favorite team?
Unfortunately, I'm a Dolphin fan, and we're not good. Haven't been good since I grew up. And we had Dan Marino, and I played quarterback until I got shattered my thumb my sophomore year, and in the first half of one game, and in the second half I started playing receiver, and then I played receiver through college. But yeah, I'm a Dolphin fan. For all those Dolphin fans out there, it's been pretty bad. They just gotta stick with it.
So if your Dolphins were to ever win again, or ever win, period, which of your wines would you want to give them to celebrate with?
Obviously Bubbles. I would be a little upset if they did the champagne shower with one of the sparkling wines.
Is there a particular one?
I mean, Rosé, it's really good right now. It's really good. La
It
Perla,
is really good.
Yeah. A La Perla Brut, that's another really good one. But I would give them sparkling. And sparkling is great for any occasion. Any occasion.
So getting a little more thoughtful and serious, when you look back, is there a piece of advice that was given to you at some point in your life that you use as a guide, whether in work or in just your personal life?
Well, I would say in wine in general, the best piece of advice I got in my first class at Davis was the best wine is the wine you like. And it really shapes the way that you look at wine, right? Because speaking back to critics, and I think a lot of people assume things about wine. Look at Chardonnay, right? California Chardonnay, people assume it's going to be one thing. That doesn't mean it's the same case every time. And I think you look at what we produce, the best wine is the wine you like. We love this style of wine, and we have always been committed to this style of wine. And I think in general, we're not alone in loving bright California wines. And so the best wine is the wine you like. And when it comes down to what I've been told as a kid, just take pride in what you do, right? Whatever, and I try to instill this in our kids, is whatever you put your name on, that's part of you. You can take a ton of pride in everything you do. And I do. I mean, from it, be it the way that the wineries run, be it the way that we sell our wine, be it anything, take a lot of pride in what we do because we own it, right? We're the two owners. There's no big bank behind us. This is us. And so it's an extension of everything we do. So we take a lot of pride in what we do and work hard. I mean, that's kind of a given in our lives.
That's beautiful.
Thanks.
That's good advice for anyone to heed. So when you look back at your career, what would you say is one of your proudest achievements to date?
I mean, I landed a pretty great wife. I mean, that was part of my, right?
That is your career.
It was part of my career, right? We happened to work together. That's part of my career. When we left Meadowood, by far, hands down, was the best thing I got out of it. What are our proudest achievements? I think if you can make it in wine and just bootstrapping it, that's a pretty phenomenal achievement in general. I think it's not an easy industry. You're playing against a lot of people with a lot more money. right? But I think in general, to get it off the ground, I remember having the conversation. I as a producer, as the one that flies at 5,000 feet, I don't see the context of the brand on a global or national level. I remember having a conversation with someone in Georgia, and it was a random person, like, "Oh yeah, I know your brand," and it was like an aha moment. I was like, "Whoa!" Like, it's a little bit. It's we're not KJ, right? Like, we're not everywhere, but at the same time, like to get enough people saying enough things about the brand in a positive manner, where you look at it, you're like, wow, it's working, and it's one of those things for us. It's a very prideful moment for sure.
Well, complete this sentence for me. A table without wine is like
life without color, to be honest. It's one of those things that it kind of completes everything. Everything without it is a little boring. That's as much as I like black and white photos, don't get me wrong, because you create a lot of imagination. You kind of create your own color within the photo. Wine is what we do. Wine is who we are. It's not our only aspect of life, but it's a lot of who we are as people. So,
well, we're sitting around a table here.
Yeah.
We've got glass windows behind us so people can watch us. So imagine this was a dinner table. We have all of our friends sitting here, but there was one special person joining us, and everyone was pretty excited. They were checking in there. Who, from any walk of life, living or deceased, do you wish you could share a bottle of brick and mortar wine with?
I mean, so this is like that one question, like you have dinner with 4 people dead or alive, right? It'd probably be my grandma. Like, she passed away 10 years ago, and she was pretty monumental in what we did. So it would be her.
That's beautiful. I have one more question as we get to the end, as we play a game, but I am just curious the story behind Brick and Mortar as a name.
Sure. So starting it in 11, to be honest, we had no aspirations of creating a winery. We would just said, I frankly had been passed up on a couple jobs that I thought I was well qualified for, but the way I took my career was, I'm not going to work at any one place for a long period of time. So I'm 35 right now. This will be my 18th harvest. So I just traveled a lot, and that's the way I decided that I was going to learn, how to make wine, was just by making wine in different parts of the world. And so in 11, I lived in Australia, and I was coming home, and I felt a little passed over on some jobs, and said, you know what, I'm going to make my own wine because I know I can do this. And so we had no intention, but we knew that this was the foundation. This is everything we were going to build upon. And thinking about foundational material, if you look at look at the fires, right? You look at a lot of what's standing left in the end, it's chimneys made from brick and mortar. And so it is our flat foundation. It is our kind of our launch pad, if you will, speaking back to the other side of my life. It just always was going to be what we were going to build. Anything we ever did in the wine industry was based on those wines. Hence the name.
I love it. So now we're going to play a little game.
Okay.
Pairing with music.
Right.
And I've been really lucky to be sipping on your wine while you're talking. Yeah. So I want to start with your pet nat. Just tell me briefly what the pet nat is, or tell everyone briefly what the pet nat is and the music you would pair with it.
Okay, yeah. So pet nat, so it's 2020 VP Rosé Nature. Von Pétillant is the VP. It is a sparkling wine that's made in a pet nat style. Mm-hmm. The blend is 51% Pinot, 49% Chardonnay from organic site in Sonoma Coast. We ferment it in puncheon, and then prior to finishing primary fermentation, we go to bottle with 24 grams per liter of the residual sugar from the grapes. Using the native yeast, it will finish fermenting under a crown cap and will brittle and disgorge.
And the song genre?
I always look at this wine as like a Nora Jones kind of wine, right? It's got a lot of soul to it, but it's very delicate, and that's I don't know.
I like that. And then we moved on to your Brut Rosé, which you spoke about earlier, because this is what you'd give the aliens and the dolphins if they ever win.
Yeah. if they ever win. Yeah.
When they win. And what would you pair with this?
Brut Rosé. So Brut Rosé, again, is a little bit more of a serious wine, but it is delicate. Man, that's a good question. Might have to come back to that one. It's definitely like a female singer that has some soul to it. I would almost so my wife loves Pink Martini as a band. I would say that would probably be a really good one. Honestly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
See, got it. Okay, then we moved into your Chardonnay.
Yep.
So I know you make a couple in different styles, but tell me what you would pair, and if you want to pick a specific one or just Chardonnay.
I mean, it's racy, right? So I look at that as something that's maybe off the beaten path of what you would expect. So Chardonnay, I almost think of like Coldplay, because Coldplay there's a very versatile brand. Like Coldplay's been with Kanye, and Coldplay has always kind of been very classical. Mm-hmm. But if you listen to their albums in the last 5 years, they've kind of changed it up a bit, and I like it. It's a little bit, I wouldn't say it's poppy, but it's a little bit more mainstream, right? Yeah. It's almost, I think Coldplay would be a good one for the Chardonnays.
And last but not least, Pinot Noir.
Ooh.
Your Pinot Noir.
My Pinot Noir. Man. I think Adam Levine would be another good one. Again, kind of one of those things that Adam Levine, I think, is a great artist. I think that he's got a lot of personality. He's got the tattoos, he's got the whole thing, he's got the sex appeal outside of it. I think that'd be a good one for the Pinot for sure. Okay,
one more quick question. What wine region is at the top of your bucket list for your next trip?
That I haven't been to before?
I don't care that you might have been or maybe you haven't, but it's where you want to go next.
What? Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's a good one. We've been trying to go to the Northern Rhone forever. I feel like every time that we try to go there, it's not close enough to anything to tie it into trips, right? So like we were like, oh, we'll go to Burgundy, we can go down. I'm like, I don't know. We were going to Austria, like we could just go across. I don't know. I would say Northern Rhone. If I haven't been there, that would be the one. We've been in Burgundy since 15, so that's been a while for us. So
okay. Well, I mean, you guys travel a lot, and obviously everything's at the top of your bucket list. You're not going to say no to anything.
Post-COVID, everything's in the bucket list. We're pulling things out.
Yeah, so you're not going to say no to any trip. But for somebody who wanted to plan a trip here to Healdsburg, to Sonoma, how can they visit Brick and Mortar and taste your wines?
So the best thing, we're not open to the public per se. We're a 2-person company, but you can always reach out on our website, which is brickandmortarwines.com. You can email Alexis or I at wine@brickandmortarwines.com. It goes to both of us. And we do our best to accommodate any and all visitors. Being that we have 3 kids, another one on the way, and a crazy dog named Jim, life can be a little crazy at times. But we do our best in order to accommodate, all visit requests.
So plan ahead and try to see if you can get a private tasting with Brick and Mortar.
Yep.
If not, just order the wine online.
Yep. Yeah, brickandmortarwines.com. It's a great avenue to see everything we do, learn about the vineyards, see all the wines, because we do have quite a few offerings, and we do ship throughout the U.S., so yeah.
Great. Well, Matt, thank you so much for joining us on Wine Soundtrack, and let's go drink some wine.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Thanks for listening to a new episode of Wine Soundtrack USA. For details and updates, visit our website, winesoundtrack.com.